Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I'm Danielle Ronan with Keller Williams Realty, and I am continuing my series of bringing pertinent information to the people of Connecticut, helpful tips on all facets of your life. And I have the pleasure today of speaking with Deanah O'Donnell. She is a tax accountant with DeCaprio and Associates CPA, and today she's going to talk to us about all the new changes in the tax world, all the new laws and changes and how they affect us as a consumer. And then for those of us who operate and own small businesses, how they may affect us there. So welcome, Deanna. Thank you so much for taking the time this morning to speak with me.
Oh, good morning. How are you? I love this series. I think what you're doing is so great. They're so informative. It's so helpful. Really
I appreciate that. Well, that's the intention, right? I can't open doors and show houses and list houses. I mean, I can, but it's challenging. However, what I can do is connect with the people in my world and try to be the conduit of information so that I can do the best to inform the people in my world. So it's a partnership. So thank you so much for being one of my trusted partners here. So I understand that there were some new laws as of yesterday.
Yes,
that hot off the press that affect us on a local level. And so please share with us what you learned.
Well, one of the questions that a lot of my small business clients have been having is this bag tax. The bag tax was implemented. There's a lot of questions to begin with. We all, I think, fairly transitioned kind of rough into bringing our own bags. But now with the COVID virus, there's a lot of concern, rightfully so, with public health about people reusing the bags, not washing them. So, of course, Lamont decided to follow suit with a lot of other neighboring states. And for the meantime, until May 15th, at least, the bag tax is suspended. So there's going to be no 10 cents per plastic bag fee. The executive order, though, he was very clear that it doesn't mandate the use of single-use bags, but it kind of goes more in line with public health, where he's not prohibiting customers from reusing the bags, but it enables the retailer to have choice of whether they're going to let their employees touch, say, for instance, your bags you're bringing into the store, and they have the right to say, I'm sorry, but can you bag your own groceries?
Right, and I know, like, I have Big Y by me in Monroe, and there's a sign there that respectfully requests that you bag your own stuff, because they're usually super helpful. I mean, they're above and beyond customer service over there. So, and then you see, because they're so used to bagging and they're so used to giving the customer service that they almost go for it and then they have to stop themselves. Yeah. So this helps out a lot.
And rightfully so. The only thing that I was disappointed in is that there wasn't a fair amount of strength and guidance that prohibits, for instance, unscrupulous, people from charging still for the bags. So there isn't a tax on them. But unfortunately, at least I didn't see in the guidelines, and again, they just came out, they came out last week, but I didn't see anything that basically says you can't charge a customer for a bag, because I'm sure they're not going to put that in there. But at least if we have our own plastic bags, it just makes it easier.
Just cutting it down, at least knowing that you can go into the store if you don't have your bag, and you can get a bag without being charged, and at least gives some people some peace of mind.
Yeah, and then at least they're disposable. You could, turn them inside out, throw them out, and you don't have to worry about them, Another big item was sales tax in the state of Connecticut. Now, because sales taxes are actually, if you're a monthly filer, they're actually due today. And a lot of clients, I always file early. So I was talking to one of my small business clients last week, and he says, well, are they going to suspend the sales tax payment? And as I've said throughout numerous times, I think to you and a couple of people, I say, absolutely not. Or I say, I can't see them doing, I don't say absolutely, I can't see them doing fill in the blank. And so far I've been proven wrong like 3 times. I said, they're not going to extend the deadline. They extended the deadline. They're not going to let you make the IRA contribution July 15th. They are. I also said, there's no way the state of Connecticut is going to suspend sales tax payments. I was wrong again. However, with everything else in tax law, it's allowed as long as you're A or B, or if CDFG doesn't apply to you. So there are some caveats to the sales tax exemption. Mm-hmm. So taxpayers have to have $150,000 less in annual sales tax liability to qualify for the extension of time to file and pay. And that goes for sales tax and occupancy tax. So if a taxpayer collects both, you have to elevate each tax separately. So say, for instance, you have a bed and breakfast that also has a restaurant in it. Those are two separate sales taxes. It have to be individual. So the calendar year for the look back for it is January 1st to December 2019. So any taxpayer that has $150,000 and less in sales tax during that period will qualify for the relief.
Okay.
This is huge because, paying sales tax, especially if, to put it in perspective for you, if you're a restaurant and you have, say, $200,000 in sales and you're paying that 7.35%, that's a heavy payment for cash flow for a business that probably either is not open or is open at a really diminished capacity. As we know, the restaurant industry, I come from originally from the restaurant industry, always will hold a special place in my heart, and they're getting hit really bad. So this really would help them out, a smaller business that, like I said, is paying that under in $150,000. That really helps, a small business out a lot. I think the government, state, they're trying to do what they can to help out the small businesses. So how does the extension really work? Well, for the payments that would be due March 31st, which is today, April 30th, you're extended to May 31st, 2020. They also put in that they're not going to be subject to penalties and interest. So meaning that your February taxes, they're due today and the payment is due today and the return is due today. You're going to have to May 31st if you qualify for the exemption of the $150,000 and less in tax for the calendar year. So this is something, again, I encourage everyone, with all these regulations coming out, it's like, I call it rapid fire regulation. It's very hard and there's a lot of misinformation out there. And so it's very important that this is a time that you need to talk to your network of professionals, your financial advisor, your attorney, your accountant, whoever you have that helps you advise your business. This really is the time to talk to them. Financial professionals, I know accountants, our office is open. We're considered essential employees. Obviously, we can't meet you in person, but we could do Zoom, phone call. Definitely, call them. And that's a big thing I've been saying over and over with many of the people I've been talking to and through Zoom meetings is, there's so much things being thrown at small business owners. And right now, as a small business owner or any person in business, really, you always are juggling, right? You always have the three balls in the air. You have your career, you have your responsibility to your employees, and then you have just running the operations of your business. Well, now if you have children, you can throw in teaching your kids and then throwing in the responsibility to your employees. Do you close? Do you stay open? Are you going to pay sick pay? I mean, there's so many things that you have to take in consideration. And there's so many items being put out in front of you, like these SBA loans and these tax credits, really requires you to sit down and kind of take a step back, which I think in times like this is very difficult. Because first of all, I don't think no one was prepared for this. I don't think businesses were prepared for how fast, things were going to slow down. And I always say, taking out a loan or making a big business decision is like crossing the street and not looking twice. You don't do that. You would never walk out into a line of traffic, say, for instance, in the middle of Route 1 in Milford and just walk out into traffic without looking both ways. And I think when you make a decision as far as a loan or tax credit or tax payments, however how small that may be, it really requires a lot of planning and thinking, and it requires a professional to help you, at least guide you and give you some of the ramifications of what you're doing. It includes these deferring your sales tax payments, something as simple as that, because it might turn into a situation where if you have the cash now, why would you want to defer the payment? Because you might not in May have the payment to pay that. And then interest and penalties will start again in May.
Gotcha.
It's not an easy decision. I mean, I don't think any of this decisions business are facing right now are easy, but it's really important that you really need to have a good financial advisor, a good accountant. And if you don't have one, I think now, especially with small businesses, I think we have a kind of united front right now where we're all trying to help each other out. And if you reach out in your network, I'm sure you can find, advisors, accountants, even HR professionals right now are in huge demand because there's the tax credits coming through require a lot of HR, knowledge and experience. And for the first time, tax credits are in the Department of Labor are united in how you get the credit. So it requires a lot of professional, and no professional is going to refuse to help.
Right. Right. So if you're making any decisions, definitely seek professional help. I'd like to segue into, if we can, jump into these stimulus checks, and what they mean, and what they mean for people, for 1099 employees, W-2 employees. Give me some things that you've learned on that front as well.
Well, the good news is, if you've always filed your taxes, meaning that you file every year, you're not going to have a problem getting your stimulus check because they know who you are, they know where to find you. The problem is going to come in for people who haven't filed for 2018 and who have yet to file 2019. The IRS has not come out and said, if you have not blatantly said, if you have not filed your 2018 taxes, you're not going to get the stimulus. They've said that they're going off your 2018 or 2019 return. So if you haven't filed 2019, in all your information, meaning you're living at the same address, you have the same bank account as your 2018 return, there really isn't going to be a problem. The problem's going to come in, say, for instance, what if you moved in 2018 and you moved from, say, Washington to Idaho? You have a different bank, a different address, and you haven't filed a 2019 check. So the IRS has issued guidance that says that they're going to put up on their website a portal where you're going to log in, you're going to confirm your identity, and you're going to put in your personal information. They haven't designed this portal yet. I think it should be fairly easy for them to implement because, as you know, you can log into irs.gov and verify your identity through a series of what you would think would be very, how do they know this, bizarre kind of questions about yourself. You verify your identity, usually takes about 10 to 15 minutes. So they have the ability to do that already. And I guess they're going to make a portal for that to be done.
I see scam all over that, though. Suddenly I got like red flags of...
Absolutely. And, you know, as you know, is a very big part of not only the practice I work in at DeCaprio, but just, you know, how I started my career, you know, was through fraud. And, you know, that scares me. It scares me because people love to Google, and I love Google. Don't get me wrong. I'm using it actually right now through Google, right? But what scares me is we don't use the top bar in our search engine. We turn on our search engine, we click on it, right? And what do we all end up doing? We type it in the middle, right? We don't use that top bar. So scammers are kind of onto that. They realize that's how we find things. Like, we don't type out www.irs.gov, right? We just put IRS, and then the suggestions pop up and we click on one. I have to be careful, right? So I always tell everyone, you know, if you're going to go and you're going to ask questions about things, don't Google, especially with the CARES Act, especially go right to the source, meaning that if you have questions about it, irs.gov. They have a whole, as soon as you get to the front page of it, type it in the top bar, you know, irs.gov. It's always .gov. It's not usa.gov. It's not /gov USA something. It's always irs.gov. Go on there. There's a whole corona virus issue relief section, very easy to read, simple questions and answers. And they're also asking, don't call. The phone lines right now, they're bogged down. They're running
everybody, right?
They're running at diminished capacity. They had to shut down the PPL, which is the practitioner priority line, which is for licensed practitioners like me or a CPA to call. They had to shut the line down because they don't have enough staff, and people are calling asking about the stimulus and the refund checks, right? They have, if you already filed and you're looking for your tax return refund, there is something called Where Is My Refund? The state of Connecticut and the IRS have it. Put your tax return in front of you, sit in front of your computer, log on, you can check it. You know, again, irs.gov. Same thing with the state of Connecticut. The DRS website is there. And you can check.
Just say what the DRS website is. Just
the DRS website, I could give you the exact one. Just give me one. I just have to click on it.
Yes, so that nobody goes into the wrong one.
Yeah, it's what you could do is it's portal.ct.gov.
Okay, and DRS stands for?
/DRS, which is Department of Revenue Services.
Department of Revenue Services. Okay. Just want to clarify.
Portal.ct.gov/DRS. You will see the little lock key in the corner on the top of the bar, which always means that that's a good sign. And you'll see the state of Connecticut logo, and there'll be 2 big bright warnings about the coronavirus in there. So you'll know you're on the right and the correct site. Right?
Okay. All right.
Many other states as well, New York, Pennsylvania, they all have, it's usually either called this we'll call it the X State Department of Taxation or X Department of Revenue Services website. So if you have coming from other states, you can check, right? But they're asking you not to call. And on another note, if anyone calls you, I've already had 2 clients call me. Anyone calls you and says, you need to send them a Google gift card, they need your social security number. Your social security number is being suspended, you're not going to get your stimulus check. The IRS isn't going to call you. They will contact you via phone after they send you a letter in the mail. If you owe taxes to the IRS, chances are you know it. That's something in the mail. There's statutory notices that send out. You're not going to get a surprise phone call, even if the caller ID says, IRS.gov. You don't know you're talking to them, right? So try not to give them any personal information on the phone, especially if they're asking you for personal information, or they're asking you, basically send me a gift card. I'm not going to get your stimulus check. Just hang up. Don't give them information. I mean, there's a lot of unscrupulous people out there, unfortunately.
Okay. Were there any changes to the push out of the filing and payment date for just general tax day? Any changes to that, or anything we should know about that?
Well, it's July 15th. So, and July 15th looks like it's a pretty heavy deadline for everyone. So it's gift tax returns, it's state of Connecticut, the payment returns, it's the same thing. So they're pushing the July 15th deadline out for everyone. And then what they're doing, and they're pushing it, and it's good because the payments as well. So it's not only do you have time to July 15th to file, they're also giving you time as far as the payments. So if normally, even before Connecticut extended it, when they said, well, you had to be in by, April 15th, but you had July 15th to pay. So that also would go for estimates as well. So people who are self-employed, 1099 employees that need to make their estimates, now you have to July 15th to make the estimates. So that makes it kind of confusing, right? Because your first estimate is due when? April 15th, and your second one is due when? In June. So then your third one is due in September. So again, should you wait to July 15th? Well, to pay 2 estimates, and then 60 days later you're going to have another estimate. It's up to you. It's a personal decision. I mean, obviously, if you have the money now, pay now. If you don't have the money now, obviously you could wait till July 15th.
Right.
And I tell everyone, the worst thing you could do is not file. The penalty for not filing is always worse than the penalty for not paying. And we do a fair share of representation in our practice. And I always would say, and it's, people get in the habit of not filing. It's never a bad person if someone owes back taxes. They're not bad. There's an extraordinary life event that happens that is out of the norm for them. Either they lost their job, or they didn't have proper guidance and they started a business, and all of a sudden they owe $30,000 in taxes. And it happens to everyone. And, I would say, why they're doing these rollouts, why they're giving these, these credits, try to get yourself in compliance, find someone and try. At least file your 18 return, try to get in there so you can get your refunds. And the refunds are not just a short-term thing. They're available throughout 2020. And the IRS has made that very clear. So for the people who haven't filed for 18, which could be quite a lot of people, you have till time. So it's not the big rush to get in for you can get your stimulus check, because say for instance the money's going to run out by like the end of May. The money's earmarked for 2020. Okay. So you could file your 18 return right up until you can. So is there a rush? Of course there's going to be a rush because you need the money, but at least it's not, people are thinking that it's a short-term solution, that the money's only going to be there for a set amount of weeks. And there was some article that was posted on some social media that says the money's only there by May 30th. And if you haven't filed your tax return by May 30th, you're not going to get your money. No, that's not the case.
All right. In the interest of time, because we've been chatting for quite some time, is there any one other thing that you want to just make sure that consumers know with regard to their taxes that you want them to walk away with?
I think a lot of the thing I want to talk about too is remember too that if people remember back to 01 and 08 with the stimulus checks that were given then, it was an offset of credits against the 2020 income tax return, and this is the same thing. So this credit, that the money that you're getting is going to offset on your 2020 income tax return. So you have to keep that in mind for as far as making your quarterly payments, paying into the system, that this will reduce a credit possibly that you have coming. And that's always, the caveat, with IRS giveth, they taketh away, Another thing too is what's I find is they have loosened the required minimum distributions and IRA contributions for this tax year. And this is also another really confusing point for people because they just changed the requirement minimum distribution, or what finance and accountants we call RMDs, meaning that you have a retirement plan, you have to, it used to be at age 70, start taking your distribution from it. So they changed that in the end of December, and they changed it to 72 and a half for people who were born after a certain birthday. So some people at 71 still have to take it. Other people, you could wait till you're 72, right? So that alone is confusing. Well, now they said, oh, and by the way, now no one has to take a requirement distribution for 2020. And believe it or not, for some taxpayers, that's a great thing because there are some people that are still working and not working for the company that their retirement plan is from. So they have to take that if they're older 70. People are working later and later, so it's common, right? They also upped the maximum of loan against an employer retirement account. So it's up to $100,000 now. And you can avoid the 10% early distribution penalty if you spread the reimbursement back over 3 years or you roll the plan. Before anyone takes out a loan against their 401k plan, they really should sit down, with their financial advisor, whoever they're through, whether it be Wells Fargo or Edward Jones, Fidelity, who's ever holding their plan, managing their plan, really sit down and think about it before you do it. Because there are, as those now the tax consequence is a lot less, there still is the ability, like I said, of making yourself kind of fall into that hole of repayment for a short-term gain.
Gotcha. All right. Well, if anybody has any additional questions for you, where was the best way that they can reach you?
The best way they could reach the office is we're located in Brantford. If anyone is, looking, either they don't have an account or they're looking for, an accountant in general, I could say probably the best way to do is ask your friends who they use. Try to get an accountant that's familiar with, if you're a business, with your software. I'm a QuickBooks Pro advisor, so if you use QuickBooks, you kind of would want someone that uses, or if you use Peachtree or Sage, you want an accountant that is familiar with your software. Ask around, ask your networks, ask your friends. If not, we're taking new clients. We'll always, visit you. My email address is dodonnell@dfd-cpa.com. You can always contact me through there. You can also find me at my full surname, which is Deborah Lauren O'Donnell at QuickBooks Pro Advisor. So, and like I said, we're easy to find. The biggest thing with advisors is that if you're going to see someone who's a tax advisor, because you want to make sure they're licensed. So that means you want either those EA initials or CPA after their name, just because they're up to date on the laws, especially with things like this. It's rapid fire law legislation. Things are coming out every day, and and it's going to take time. And I think a lot of thing I would tell clients is, don't get frustrated if you call your client and your accountant and they tell you, well, I have to look into that, because chances are they might.
Right.
Because the tax credits, they're coming out, and the credit is coming out before the guidance of who applies to it. So it's kind of a hurry up and wait situation.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that's a load of incredibly helpful information, and I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us. And thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'm happy. And thank you. I love these talks. I think they're so great.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, take care, and I hope to see you sooner than later.
And like I said, any questions, it's DODONNELL at DFD, like David Frank David -CPA.com.
Perfect. All right. Thanks again, Deanna.